All right, guys. This story is continuing to develop, and we've got some updates. So lately I've been saying I hope Trump's presidency is as bad as it can possibly be at this point. MAGA is unwilling to accept, no matter how blatant, that Trump's behaviors are stupid and harmful to most Americans. Even as he goes against his campaign promises in their faces and brags about it, they still support him and buy into the delusions he peddles them. And at this point, I want these people to learn their lesson as harshly as they can. I hope for the consequences of Trump's policies to hit them as hard as possible. If it means it has to hit every American as hard as possible, that's fine. That's fine. My hoping doesn't change anything. It's just what I hope for. I need America to feel the consequences of electing this guy so hard that it hurts Republicans forever. I want future Republicans to have to say, we're no Trump, in order to have any viability to get elected in the future. At the very least, if there's ever going to be a Republican Party again, I want it to have to stand against Trump and to constantly denounce Trump in the future for any chance at electoral viability. Then again, they may never learn their lesson, which is why I hope for maximum damage. Here's the thing, though. These people, time and time again, just continue to come up with excuses for why Trump is doing everything right. It's all part of the plan, right? And while everyone was losing substantial portions of their 401k investments and their S&P 500 stocks were dropping if they had any money invested in that. Same goes for the NASDAQ and Dow Jones, reaching record lows day by day for multiple days in a row after Trump announced his policies on tariffs. Things were in a catastrophic spot. And MAGA just kept saying, just trust the plan. And today, Donald Trump, I guess, felt the pressure a bit, and so he paused the tariffs. I believe for 90 days, for the next 90 days, the tariffs are paused. And in response, the market has bounced back, soaring substantially after he announced a pause to the tariffs. As you can imagine, though, it shouldn't take you more than a second to predict this. Because the markets have bounced back, of course, it was after Trump undid the thing he did that he ran on and said would be so good for the economy. Now they're all saying, look, record-breaking economic growth. The economy is soaring. It's very easy to do that when yesterday it was at a record low. Yeah, it's very easy to do that, but we all know this. But as you can imagine, MAGA is taking their victory lap, but I don't think it's going to last long. The copium huffing is going to resume very shortly, because for those of you guys who do not know, Trump has announced, I believe, the tariffs against China are now going up to 124%. China, and most of the rest of the world, has not issued their retaliatory tariffs on the US yet. So the brunt of damage that will be done by Trump's actions haven't even hit us yet. The damage that's been done so far that just bounced back was just speculative damage. It was the economy becoming less confident due to Trump's decision. And the only reason it bounced back is because of an increase in confidence that at least for the next 90 days, things might be somewhat stable. Unfortunately, though, that still means MAGA's taken their victory lap, but take plenty of solace in the fact that their victory lap is going to turn into a copium huffing lap very quickly. China hasn't responded yet. I don't think the UK has responded yet. I mean, most of our allies and trade partners have not issued their counter response to us just yet. So, yeah, we're in a bad spot. Not to mention, the stocks are doing well. The stock market is doing well right now, but a lot of people, the economy in general is doing much worse, as Entropy just said in YouTube chat. The Federal Reserve is not I'm pretty sure the Federal Reserve is in panic mode because they don't even know what to do at this point because Trump gutted everybody who knew how to handle a situation like this. So I don't even know. We're not adjusting interest rates. We're not handling inflation. We're not trying to deal with unemployment. It's so bizarre. Like, we've just got no adults in the room right now. But regardless, let's not put this off any further. Let's hear the news.
So we are, of course, watching Wall Street, where markets have gone up after President Trump announced a 90-day pause on the vast majority of countries. The exception, China, which will now face even stiffer tariffs, 125%. But the news that essentially all the other tariffs will drop to 10% for the next 90 days is getting a very enthusiastic reaction, as you can see from investors. We heard from Treasury.
It's actually insane that Trump is just Sauron. Trump is literally just Sauron. He makes a problem or makes up a problem. If he can make a problem, he'll make it. If he can make one up, he'll make it up. And then he sells the stupid, gullible masses on the idea that he's the only one that can fix the problem that more often than not he just made. He did this. He did all this. This isn't even the all-time low. This is just like the flatlining we were dealing with for the last couple of days. This isn't even the massive drop. This is just it going back to normal. This is called insider trading. Oh, fuck, I forgot to mention the market manipulation factor. When the market hit its all-time low, Trump tweeted, "Now is a great time to buy stocks." So all of his supporters bought at that low and are probably selling now at this high. So to be fair, for a lot of Trump supporters, particularly the ones into stocks and trading and stuff, they probably just made a shitload of money and feel like Trump did that for them.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just a few minutes ago, who essentially portrayed all of this as part of a grand strategy. NBC's Christine Romans joins me now. Christine, the tariffs aren't gone.
No.
But obviously Wall Street is loving this, or at least to some extent loving this. We're not back to the point where it was before he first announced these tariffs. But what are you looking at? Where do we go from here?
So there are 10% tariffs on a whole bunch of countries, like 75 countries. And so that's important to note. That's still dramatically higher than what, the global trading system is used to. But not that 46%, 49%, some of those really.
Keep in mind, by the way, neither the market nor America's actual economy has been impacted by the counter response yet.
Big, steep numbers that were going to be so troubling, except China. China is still, the president really putting the screws to China and raising the tariff rate there a lot, 125%. Remember, the U.S. gets so much stuff from China. I mean, if you look around.
Hey, guys, do you think all the American retailers are just going to tank the 125% tax on any good they ship into America to sell from China? Did you hear China is pulling away from LA due to the tariffs? They're going to pull away from everything. Like, we get so many of our goods from China. As it stands, this realistically means a 124% increase in price. That's 1.4, or I guess it's 1.25, sorry, because it's 125%. 1.25 times more expensive. That's a lot. That is, we're doubling numbers out here. We're doubling prices for Chinese products now. That is something no one can deny. When you're more than doubling prices for most of the shit we buy in our stores, and that's directly connected to your economic policy, I don't know, man. I don't know. China is like a bunch of Chinese social media users have been making AI-generated images of Americans, like fat Americans mostly. Like that, you could tell that they specified fat in their prompt for the AI, where it's like a bunch of like rural MAGA American flag wearing, like, when you imagine like what non-Americans think of when they think of an American, sitting in a sweatshop sewing random products, because like we get so much of our shit from sweatshops in China, and that's the only way any of it's even affordable for most people. And so if we're going to have these products be affordable and made in America, it's going to mean tens of thousands, millions, of Americans working in sweatshops. And so Chinese social media users are AI generating images of like massive hauls of American like Trump supporters working in sweatshops. Because that's literally what they're begging for right now. And it's so fucking funny.
Walk down the street. I mean, Chinese goods are everywhere, so that will have a dramatic impact. In terms of the rebound in the stock market, really astonishing. This you don't often see a big move like this, Chris. You've got about I think more than half of the losses of the past few days have now been erased just because of that one Truth Social post from the president. And
I love how the like emphasis on it's so extraordinary how much the market has bounced back. And it's like, yeah, it's bounced back halfway from the damage because Trump paused the tariffs for 90 days. Like, all this is Trump's fault, including the bounce back, to be fair. But like, how can people still claim Trump's plan for the tariffs and that the tariffs are good? How can people still claim that Trump's tariffs are good when his pausing them immediately revives the economy? Like, that day it revives the economy to some extent, right? Like, they literally cannot accept anything that is not blatant praise for their god emperor.
And then that appearance on television from the Treasury Secretary.
Yeah, I should point out, we mentioned that the Dow was over 45,000 back in December after the president was elected, but under Joe Biden, and the economy then considered strong.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about something that the president, I think he tweeted it, right? Didn't he tweet something to the effect of, now's a good time to get in, or it's a good time to buy? I wonder if this morning he was signaling.
That's market manipulation.
Just unprecedented. The president posted on social media earlier today, be cool. And that was at a time when the bond market was really in some stress here. You saw bond yields rising pretty dramatically. People were selling bonds aggressively, and that was kind of a warning sign. Remember, the White House has been using the bond market as an example of how its policies are working. Well, it was not signaling that at all. So the president said something to the effect of be cool, and then he said it's a good time to buy something. And all of us were like, what, does he mean bonds? Does he mean stocks?
Keep in mind, if you love Trump, you'll trust everything he says. So when he told people to buy the dip, and they bought the dip, and then the economy bounced back after he paused the tariffs, they're going to sell at that peak, and they're going to feel like Trump made them a fortune personally. For the crypto bros and the stock bros, Trump just basically solidified their support forever. No, like, unless they completely these people probably pulled their money out at this. Many of them probably pulled their money out and pocketed it at this point. But Trump manipulated the market, maybe unintentionally, but I think it became intentional eventually, in such a way where his supporters will benefit from this. Very selfishly and personally, they will benefit from this in a way that will make them feel Trump did them a personal favor, which might be the most insane enforcement of a parasocial relationship I've ever seen. A lot of these stock bro MAGA people are going to become dyed-in-the-wool cultists now after what he did for them.
What was he talking about? And then he announces this pause and stock markets shoot up. So that's getting a lot of chatter this morning about the president with his posts potentially, I don't know, cheering or trolling, or we're not exactly sure what all that means, but it is very, never in presidential history have you seen something like that.
Unprecedented is a correct word. Christine Romans, thank you. Come back as you get more reporting. We'd love to hear from you. I want to bring in Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey. We have been listening, at least some of our folks who can listen. The Senate Democrats are talking right now, among them Kirsten Gillibrand, who called all of this uncertainty destructive. We just had a local entrepreneur from Brooklyn here who was on, and he says he doesn't have any way of knowing how to plan. He's got a new product that he doesn't know what's going to happen with that. Let me get your reaction, though, to the president's announcement, because what the Treasury Secretary said was that this is successful negotiating.
All right, guys. Here's what I want you to do. Well, no, I don't want you to do it. This is not financial advice, okay? I'm not a financial expert. But I'll tell you what most financial experts do. They invest into, if you are consulting a financial expert, more likely than not, they're not going to advise you to make risky investments. And generally, outside of situations like this, some of the safest investments you can make are into index funds, generally the big three: the Dow, the S&P 500, and what's the industrials one? Why am I blanking on its name? Dow Industrials, S&P 500, and fucking, why am I blanking on it right now? I can't remember the name of it. I literally am just blanking. Regardless, investing in these like big three, NASDAQ, thank you. The big three index funds are very safe to invest in generally, because you're investing in like the future health of the economy as a whole, like a whole industry in America. And you expect the economy is just going to keep growing. That if you invest in, like, I invested in the S&P 500 too as well, Green Moon. So if you invest in, say, the S&P 500, you hope that the economy will continue to grow and that most of that consumer market will continue to grow. The only problem is when we hit a recession, the S&P 500 is the first thing that gets hit. Like, you can predict a recession by looking at the rate of drop within those big three, particularly the S&P 500, because it has to do with consumer goods and consumer industry. And so most economic advisors would recommend that you look at the state of the country, and if you have the wherewithal to understand what political policies will do to the economy, then you can pretty safely predict where the market is going to go. We all knew this was going to happen when Trump called for his tariffs. When Trump ran on these tariffs, we knew the market was going to crash. And we all knew that if Trump just let up on his bullshit, the market would have to recover. So I think I'm not saying you should. I think if you wanted to get into trading, you should definitely not invest in anything that is not one of the safer options, like the big three index funds. And if you're going to invest in them, all I'm saying is I would time it alongside Trump's shenanigans. If Trump is actively planning to do something that we all know is stupid, and we all know the impact it's going to have on the market, maybe that dip is a good time to buy. I would say that dip would be a good time to buy for myself, personally. And I would sell as soon as it goes back to a high. I would not hold that shit for a minute. Like, if you are the kind of person that wants to stock your portfolio all day and all night, like, now is the time to do that. And I would be doing it if I felt like it. I would be doing it with the S&P 500 and just buying whenever Trump nukes our economy once a month or twice a month, and selling when it goes back to normal because Trump pauses the tariffs again. Who knows how long he's going to keep doing this pause, unpause, raise the tariffs, tank the economy game. Like, if Trump's supporters at his request are buying the dip strategically, all I'm saying is, I don't see any reason why no one else should. It seems like the market under Trump is going to be very predictable. And if you're the kind of person who has wanted a predictable market for investing in, if you're smart about it, you could probably maybe enrich yourself a bit off of this information. Zam becomes a stock millionaire due to Trump's incompetence. I low-key could. I like it's actually kind of insane how, like, man, like, we all know that Trump's just going to keep on doing this. Like, the market has to bounce back or America's over. And at that point, it's like, who cares if you don't make your money back? So when the market hits an all-time low, if you have the money to invest, I mean, I'm just saying, I would if I were going for it. But not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just pointing something I noticed out. I'm going to buy at what I think will be the peak of the recession and the lowest point of the economy, and sell if or when a Democrat gets into office, assuming we have another election. I would be honest, guys, I wouldn't hold at all. Like, maybe holding, like, if your goal is to, like, just dump a shitload of money into the S&P 500 and go all in or something when it's at its lowest, and then just hold for years and years and years until we go back into an economic, like, golden era, like under Biden, and then you sell. But the real money in stock trading, the stock millionaire guys are constantly trading and selling up and down, up and down. And right now, the whole market is on such a predictable trajectory that it feels like, okay, well, Trump's just like outing his market manipulation publicly. Like, we know what the market's going to do tomorrow based on what Trump said today. So it's a good time to be a stock bro, is what I'm saying. It's right now is actually kind of a good time to be a stock bro. I hate to say it.
I mean, yeah, they called it the art of the deal. It seems like it's the art of stupidity. I mean, you literally are dealing with a White House that by the hour is shifting position, right, creating more chaos and confusion. And that's kind of the takeaway when I'm talking to folks back home all the time. And I was in some diners yesterday talking to people, and they're saying
they will short the stock. Can you short the S&P 500? I don't see why you wouldn't be able to, but I feel like borrowing shares of the S&P 500, who would you be borrowing from? Yeah, you can? Okay. I've never fucked with shorts. That's something I will never get into. I will never short a stock. That, like, when people talk about losing everything in the stock market, that's where it usually happens. It's actually pretty rare someone goes all in on something super risky, it dies so hard they lose everything. That's not as common as people like trying to win big, high risk, high reward with shorting a stock, and then they lose everything. Because with shorting a stock, your losses can be way bigger than what you invested. The amount you put in isn't necessarily the limit to your losses. Your losses can be larger than that. You can end up owing money. It's really, yeah, you could be devastated if you get into shorting stocks. I'm never touching that. No. You can short anything or buy put options, which is what probably happened here. Yeah, that would probably be what a lot of the crypto bros, or not the crypto bros, the stock bros did. Because they were confident, and right to be confident, the market would have to bounce back if Trump just lifted his finger off the scale for a second, you know?
to me, seniors are saying to me, I don't know how to plan here. I'm panicked about my retirement. They see their retirement savings plummeting as the market keeps moving up and down and all over the place. And of course, the cost of what they pay for everything is going up already. So he's now hit the pause button for 90 days. That doesn't address the certainty problem, right? It's still both for small businesses and of course for families. That doesn't tell you what's going to happen now in 90 days from now. We're just going to hold our breath and wait and see what happens then. This is not the way to run an economy as you decide one day to go after our trading partners and everything we need to buy, and then the next day say we're gonna reverse that. You know, I think the best thing we need is like a clear strategy. We need to understand where we're going as an economy and a country so that people cannot be worried as they are every day about their cost of everyday goods and how they're going to get by.
So
everyday goods.
You said you were talking to some seniors in a local diner. The other thing that the president said yesterday, right before these new tariffs went into effect, which now mostly have gone away, was that he was looking at new tariffs on pharmaceuticals, which we know hit.
There are apparently people who just ride the market and don't sell. That's a valid strategy, don't get me wrong. And that's what you should do. Like, that's what you should do. I think every market advisor would recommend you just, like, invest a little with each paycheck in safe investments. Usually, like, a Roth IRA is smarter and safer than something like investing in stocks anyway. But regardless, if you're going to invest into, like, the S&P 500, you might be advised to put, like, a little bit of every paycheck into the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or the Dow Jones, whichever of the main index funds you choose of your choice, and you might just hold and hope for the economy to grow. You're like checking the news regularly, maybe the newspaper, just like hopping on before work, you go online. This is most people who do this. And checking to see what the state of the economy is. Is the economy all up? Yay! What I invest is going up. Is the economy down? What I invest is going down. People kind of treat it a little bit like a potentially higher interest savings account, where they're saving a little bit of their savings can maybe gain a lot more interest than the average savings account might offer. And usually that's the case. The economy is ideally always growing, and so you have a pretty solid interest rate of growth on whatever you invest in into these three big index funds, because the market's usually growing for America. America has a very healthy market under normal circumstances, especially compared to most countries, especially in the Western world, right? Like a lot of Europe and even like Canada don't really have a growing market compared to America. America's market is constantly growing, and that's envious for a lot of countries. For the average American, being able to invest in the future of the economy up until now has been something we've taken for granted as a real way to gain personal wealth. If you are willing to like engage in the stock market, like a lot of people who have their shit together financially, they invest in these stocks because it is a very effective way to maximize your gains. But under these circumstances, I don't know if hodling is smart. I don't take my word for it because I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just saying from my POV, while I would normally say, yeah, just hodl and just hope for the economy to continue to grow and your investments to grow, right now, the market is acting like a shitcoin, where it's bouncing up and down rapidly with great percentage differences between lows and highs. Percentages of difference are what matter in stock trading. You get more money if the difference between your buying point and selling point are a large gap in percentage, not in raw number, right? And so these massive percentage jumps back and forth for the type of people who love to stock bro all day and just sit in front of a like Robinhood or whatever they use for stock trading. This is a dream come true because they can just buy a dip when Trump is broadcasting, or like Trump is telegraphing these dips in the market so ahead of time. You have so much time to prepare to buy said dip. And then he literally the night before putting it in place, like before the market opens, will announce that he's going to let up the tariffs, and the market will open to a record high of the last week or two, or the last week. And that's the point where you want to sell for the most guaranteed profit. If you just do this over and over again and Trump doesn't stop doing this, there are going to be people who exponentially increase their wealth through this method. I'm not there are going to be people that do that. It's going to be like the game stonk thing, but a billion times more destructive to the American market, pretty much.
Senior citizens the most. What do you make of that? Because there's no mention. This new statement is about specific countries, but he's talking about pharmaceuticals specifically.
Right. I mean, this is kind of the point. You just don't know when you wake up every day what's coming at you. If you're someone living in our country right now, and if you're just a family trying to plan, or a senior trying to plan for your retirement, or you're on a fixed income in retirement, and you don't know whether it's your clothing or your cars or your coffee or your cheese you're buying that day, what's going to happen to what you're paying for everything. And I think that's really what I'm hearing from folks is I can't handle this chaos. And it's not only...
Zan, can't investors just pull out entirely and leave us for the EU, Russia, and China? Yeah, so basically, that's what he's warning of, is that as fun as this sounds and as haha, yeah, whatever, the American market, we cannot take it for granted. This could very well cripple America's market future for generations. This could be something we don't heal from. And we have taken the fact that America is an almost always growing market for granted. recessions, which are a commonplace all around the world, are considered a massive big deal event in America because our economy is usually not in a recession. It's in the opposite of that. And yeah, it's just right now we're abusing our markets and our economy. Trump is abusing our market and our economy, and it's not going to bounce back as easily eventually. Like, you can't just do this and believe that everything's just going to go back to normal once you stop fucking around. Like, eventually, Trump's going to lift up the tariffs and the markets aren't going to recover. That's the scary thing.
Causing me huge stress, people are saying, but I don't know how to plan for it. And I think that's what you're also hearing from small businesses, right? I can't plan in this kind of chaotic environment where you got the Fed chairman saying this is going to lead to more inflation. You've got Moody's saying this is going to lead to a recession. People don't know what to do and how to plan. And you know, whatever he says that day is like the boy who cried wolf. You don't know what he's saying that he means. Is he playing craps with our future and our economy that day or not? And I think that's what's really leading to massive anxiety. And by the way, those people who voted for him, who I've spoken to a lot, are saying to me, wait, I thought I was getting somebody who's going to make my life more affordable and be less chaotic. And they instead, they got just the opposite. You know, we got to make...
At least now there's no more DEI, right? Like, wokeness is now no more, so it's totally worth it, right, guys?
And I think it's clear the Democrats, we care about getting costs down for people. That's what I believe deeply in for families that I represent in Jersey. We got to get costs down, we got to get taxes down, make life more affordable for them. This president's doing literally the opposite.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today, Congressman, is because you're a co-sponsor of a bipartisan bill that would limit the president's tariff powers. Will it be harder for you now to get the votes? Would you expect to hear from more Republicans? You know, let's sit back, let's wait, let's see what happens now with the president. He is now negotiating with 75 countries.
Well, right. The idea that he's negotiating with 75 countries, I think, is a huge question mark. Listen, Don Bacon and I introduced legislation with others, bipartisan, to make it clear that the president actually has to, this is the way the Constitution calls for, to come to Congress and actually allow us to debate these, because we are supposed to be the ones who decide per the Constitution on tariffs, on economic policy this way. And I think that's where we should have this discussion and debate over these next days here, to decide one by one which countries we should, if we should levy any tariffs at all, and look.
I'm so sad that tariffs after this might be a dirty word forever. Because tariffs aren't evil. Like, they aren't inherently stupid. Tariff-happy Republican presidents have really used them to destroy our economy in the past and present, but tariffs, if used right, can cause a benefit that outweighs the harm. Any tariff will always cause harm to the people of the country instituting that tariff. The idea is that that harm acts as a motivator, or I guess a path that leads Americans to doing something that actually causes a better outcome. A really good example of how tariffs have been used correctly is Biden. America was really competitive in a certain market when it comes to production, and that was chip production. We're actually really competitive with China, especially under Biden. Biden put a lot of money into America's computer chip industry. And this opened up a lot of jobs. That's why Biden had like record job creation in his presidency. He was, a lot of his focus was creating new jobs and expanding jobs that already exist, so that there's more of them here. And as a way of trying to encourage more American-built chips getting purchased over Chinese-built chips, Biden put a slightly higher tariff, or slight tariff, on Chinese-manufactured computer chips. It was called, the CHIPS Act was it was part of the CHIPS Act, which also dedicated a lot of money to expanding our industry of computer chips. And over the course of just a few years, it made a massive difference, right? But why is this tariff good and Trump's other tariffs bad? This was a surgically targeted tariff in an area where America was pulling ahead or about to pull ahead in that particular industry above China. We were already manufacturing that product here, Convincing Americans to buy American rather than Chinese would have helped to give us the extra push to gain the global number one in the global market in that industry, which would be a big help in the long run. And the only trade-off is Americans who are dead set on buying Chinese-built chips might have to pay, I think it was like 6% more if they're buying it from a U.S. retailer because of the tariff cost, the tax on the sale. And so it was just a bit cheaper to buy American. And so more people bought American because they just shop by price. And this led to a boom in the American computer chip industry. We were going to overtake China. We were completely set to overtake China. And Trump destroyed it. Trump destroyed all of that, by the way. Regardless, though, that is how tariffs can be used well. Tariffs are not evil. They're not always bad. They're not always stupid. When used right, they're an effective tool. Trump has fallen back on them as a buzzword, understands most Americans, frankly, don't have the education or intelligence to understand what a tariff is. And so if he just keeps repeating the word, that if you hear someone use a word you don't know, if you're a dumb person, you immediately assume that person is smart. And for a lot of Trump supporters, Trump will hear a word that most of them have never heard before, say it, and then all of a sudden they're all saying this word, and they're all like, oh my God, Trump is so smart. Like, you've seen this phenomenon happen in real time. Like, the MAGA right will never have said a certain word or phrase before. Trump says it once, and then all of a sudden they're experts on it, talking about it all the time. It reminds me of that one Family Guy bit in the Star Wars parody, where Peter, who is Han Solo, forgets Quagmire C-3PO's name, and he's like, yeah, you and and he says C-3PO, and Peter's like, oh yeah, C-3PO, my good friend C-3PO. Yeah, I know you, C-3PO. What do you mean? Of course I remembered your name, C-3PO. He's like, he starts saying C-3PO's name as much as possible to try and like act as if he always knew it. It reminds me of that like cutaway gag from the Family Guy Star Wars episode where like they totally don't know a word or a concept or have never heard of something. Trump mentions it once, and then they're all saying it as much as possible to make it seem like they always knew about it.
One by one, is it our adversary China, right? And what are we doing there? Or are we talking about a key trading partner? And that's the kind of debate we should be having. And I think, I'll tell you this, from talking to a lot of my Republican colleagues, they're running out of patience on right, this back and forth on everything, right? Just the general chaos of how everything is running out of this administration.
But Congressman, running out of patience to what end? So what do you do for your constituents? What do they do for their constituents who are calling them?
Well, listen, what they can do for their constituents is actually start speaking out and joining bills like this one and saying enough's enough, right? Until these Republicans start actually breaking publicly and start saying you can't do this and raise prices and go after people's retirement savings and run an economy, a global economy this way, until they start speaking out en masse, we know he's not going to, the message will not be clear to the White House. But I think you're starting, as you saw in the Senate, with 7 Republicans speaking out and joining that legislation. Now you're seeing some people on our bill, and we've had a great interest from Democrats and Republicans. I think the dam's starting to break because they're getting so much pressure from home about when you start messing with people's pocketbooks and their wallets, when you start messing with their retirement savings, it's a whole different deal. And I think that's what you're seeing right now, very front and center, which is part of why I think the president just reversed himself.
And I don't think that Trump reversing himself is going to change much, to be honest. MAGA is a cult, and I don't think most of these cultists are going to be broken out of it by the end of the next 4 years. But I think the critical centrist proportion, the people who chose to sit out this last election, and the people who were swayed more Trump than Kamala, I hope they're learning their lesson. And I think most of them are. I don't think it matters that they feel a loyalty to progressivism or the Democratic Party. I think that all that matters is that they're deathly terrified of a Republican winning again. That's all I care about. I want America to be deathly terrified of another Trump. That, like, I want the average American to think, I cannot afford another Trump to win. an election. I cannot risk this next Republican doing what Trump did. This guy's promising to help the economy and cut off illegal immigration. That's what Trump promised to do. He sounds like Trump right now. I hope to God Trump poisons the well in the long run on all the issues the Republicans virtue signal about, to the point where if they want to exist anymore, they have to drop all the anti-trans stuff, the anti-immigrant stuff, the talking points they have currently about the economy, because it sounds too much like Trump, and hopefully everyone remembers what that was. Not MAGA, of course, but like the average American. They've forgotten before, though. Make no mistake, they have experienced the most severe of consequences before, and then immediately voted Republican at the next chance that they got. So, I won't get my hopes too high, of course. Regardless, though, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, enjoyable, or educational in any way, then consider leaving a like and a comment, if you will. Whether you're watching live or after the fact when this goes up as a video, every thumbs up and every comment forces YouTube to boost my stuff in the algorithm and recommend it to more people. So it is really the best way to support the channel, and it's totally free. So thank you to everybody who does that. And don't forget to subscribe, too. Make sure that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos. And if you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can follow my social medias linked down below in the description, particularly my fan Discord, which is the main hub of my fan base and community. In fact, I host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, and movie nights there every Friday, and announce all my new uploads and streams there, so you won't miss anything if you join. Once again, link down below in the description. Finally, though, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or perhaps support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.